and welcome to the Golden Hour. I am Golden Duffy, your host, and I have a super incredibly inspiring guest today. My guest, Aaron Washington, is a Navy veteran, a human design practitioner. He is a projected projector, which you're going to hear all about. I'm so excited for this show because this is about awakening our awareness to a new level of consciousness. It's awakening our awareness to a map to the design of who we truly are. And when we can really tune into that and tap into that, then we can become more as a soul, as a person, as a spirit here in this journey of life. Aaron studied human design under Chitan Parkin and other original students of Ra, the founder of the human design system. He is a business and self-development consultant and creative. His goal is to share this and other tools of awareness with others so that they can truly make decisions as themselves, independent of anything and anyone else, and to be aware of the best conditions to be able to operate from that space. Love that. This is not to say we don't need other people and should not take advice. On the contrary, however, we should act only from our inner authority. Welcome, Aaron Washington. I'm so excited to have you here.
How's it going?
You know, always I feel like my relationships are divinely guided, but with you, it was like, I don't know, we instantly clicked, and it's so cool because we live near each other, so we can actually get together in person.
Yeah.
So thank you for being on today. I really feel like this show is for me as well as other people because I'm very new to human design, but just the few things that you told me about myself have already improved my life. So I know there's something to this, and I want to dive into it with you, and I want to help people to understand this like roadmap to the design of self.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know what it is about human design. I didn't make up the system, but it's definitely been the most accurate, most profound thing. And I've done a lot of things, like a lot of different programs, a lot of different schools of thought. But this to me is kind of the most prolific for me for the way I work.
Right.
And it's a science, it's a science, it's an experiment. So yeah, I'm excited to share this with a lot of people.
Which is this whole life experience, right? It's a scientific experiment. It's a spiritual experiment. Like we're all figuring it out. And when we have tools and different ways of accessing our programming, right? Where we can actually start to shed the programs and the conditions that we were raised with, we can start to step into more truth and more power and more of what we are actually designed here to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. So I did a little study on the human design and what exactly it is. And basically, for me and the experience I've had working with you is it's really letting go of the resistance around your actual design and how you move through the world and how you make decisions so that you can do it more effectively. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it would be a tool to understand your energy and the energy of others around you and how to best use that energy in order to have the least amount of resistance possible.
Okay, so in a really simple way, can you explain how is that formulated?
So it's type, profile, and then strategy and authority. So you have types, energy types, and you're a 1-3 manifesting generator, for example. As a sacral being, we'll call generators sacral beings because they have life force energy. As a sacral being, your aura or your frequency or whatever one might call it is open and enveloping. And you have a lot of energy and you have the energy to build. How you best use that energy is when you're responding to something you're guided by or guided to respond to based on your inner authority, not just what someone says you should do, not just what your mind tells you should do, and not just, what society or anyone else tells you to do. for me, as a self-projected projector, just as a projector in general, my frequency, my aura is very focused, and it's it's almost intrusive if I'm not recognized or not welcomed.
Mm.
So it just knowing the mechanics of this, you
Mhm.
can, navigate the world with a lot less resistance. So for example, for someone like me, if I just came up to you and was like, "Hey, let's like this or have this idea, or you should do this way," it would be you like, "What are you doing, dude?" Like, versus, the other type, the manifester is the one that can do that, because it's in their auras. They say repelling, but it's repelling. I mean, it's all just to protect them and protect the person with that, because they don't have a sacral center or a life force, so their energy is valuable. But they can initiate, they could get like start things. Um, I should say they can be a catalyst. They
Okay.
catalyze and start things, and very few of them, in comparison to the other types, um, can do that. And me not having a sacral center as well, meaning an energy center, a life force energy, like a generator, a manifesting generator like yourself. Similarly, if I start initiating, or if I just, came up to you and said, "This is how you should do something," um, it would drain my energy, and I will have my theme of bitterness to contend with.
Ah.
Um,
So really, this is about figuring out the best way to energetically move through the world as whatever your human design is. So me being a manifesting generator, um, is different than the way that you move through the world as a self-projected projector. That's what you said, right? I'm learning all
yeah,
these terms. Yeah.
yeah. Well, the self-projected is just my authority, but yeah, just in projectors in general.
Projectors in general. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just go through, just for my sake and the
Mhm.
people here. Let's just go through the different types and what that force is within each type. So a manifesting generator has, what did you say, the sacral life force?
Yeah. So if I had to just like break it down,
Yeah.
you would say the four types are manifester, generator.
Yep.
There's a subtype. Some people say it's a completely different type. Depending on the school of thought you're looking at, they'll just say there's still only four types,
Okay.
but generator, manifesting generator,
Okay.
projector, and reflector. So
Okay.
um, the manifester is not even 10% of the population.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And
Mhm.
what it's funny is because people tell you, like, go out there, make it happen, dude. Like, they're really the only ones that can do that. And in part, it's like because their aura is closed and repelling, in a sense, they can get things done and not. They'll meet resistance if they don't let people know what they're doing, but not a conditioning aspect of the other that is just going to like stand in their way, as much as another type maybe.
So
And
they're
then
kind of like full speed ahead. But I think I need to touch back on this repelling thing because it's interesting to me. Um, can you explain that? Because I am a manifesting generator. So what is that repelling? What does the repelling thing mean?
so no, well, they don't have a sacral center, so your aura is still open and enveloping. When I say repelling, that's just the way it was written. The
Yeah, because
words
when I think
don't.
repel, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, so it's like the thing about repelling though, it's like you if you're initiating something, if you're going to initiate something, if you're going to start something,
Yeah.
you cannot have anyone like get in your way. Have you ever just looked at someone and you're like, oh, they mean business and they're
Okay.
focused?
Okay, I got it.
And yeah,
Yeah.
like you
You
can't get
know what I
that.
just you know what I just did? Repelling. Have you ever gone rock climbing?
I like
Okay.
inside.
Repelling is when you kind of let the thing down and you go down, right? Like that's
Mhm.
repelling. And it can be like a super fast speed. So I think repelling, that word is being used differently as far as what you're, so as far as repelling goes, you're not necessarily repelling people. You're more like repelling experiences by like bringing them down into the physical. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I would even say, because I like the way you put it, I would even say you're repelling other people's energy from getting you distracted.
Oh, that's good. Okay. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. That's really good. Okay. So that's manifesting generator.
Well,
Uh,
that's manifester.
that's manifester. So that's not what I am.
No, you're a manifesting generator. So the theme of like in human design, the theme of the manifester, let's just stay with that,
Yeah.
and then it'll segue into the manifesting
Okay.
generator, is peace. They want peace,
I like that.
right?
Yep. That's a good objective. I like it.
And their strategy, it's not very, it's their strategies to inform. It's not a mechanic, I would say, but it's so you don't get any like too much pushback. They don't need permission to do anything, but they
Right.
inform that way they're not met with resistance.
I got it. Okay. Okay.
It's, yeah. So if you're a manifester and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick, just like let someone know. Or if you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be um, I don't know, cleaning out the garage and doing all that stuff because I just need to get it like, get it done, or I'm gonna be putting a shelf or a studio in the garage. Just let the people around you know,
Yeah.
or you don't have to. You can play around with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's just there's something about a manifestor just doing the things that they want to do you know, without informing that some people are like resistant to.
Got it. Got it. But they want peace, so they would inform people so that because their objective is peace. So that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll
Okay.
get into why. So the reason why they call it a manifester, and this is why it would give me to like the point with you, is because there's a motor to the throat.
Okay.
So in this you have 9 centers, and some of the centers are motors.
Okay.
So there's a motor to the throat center,
Okay.
and for manifesting generator, there's a motor to the throat, and there's a sacral center defined. So you have life force energy, and there's a motor to the throat. Um, but you're here to respond still.
Okay.
Okay, so
Is that why I talk so much?
no, no, no. It
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. I have like 200 hours of shows. It makes sense.
yeah, it's just, and then you have the integration channel, which no one's like, if you don't know what that is, it's perfectly fine. But it's like about being really busy
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
The 3420, yeah, and yeah, I mean, so manifesting generator, you're still a generator in the sense that you have a sacral energy,
Okay.
and you're and based on your authority, you'll respond externally, and then you go out and build. You
Okay.
go out and build. The cool thing about being a generator or a manifesting generator is like you don't have some of the issues that like non-sacral beings have in regards to completing something or working with something. I mean, that's a vague statement, but there is a beauty in the simplicity of being able to just respond to your authority
Hmm.
for generators
Okay.
and respond to something. And you, yeah, people love being around generators. And you guys,
Right.
like, yeah, I love anyone with the defined. So I'll go, like, so there's centers in human design. I'll go around anyone with a defined spleen and just love them and let
Yeah.
them be a generator too. Oh, yeah, it feels really good.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, it's I don't know. I think if I had to say anything about a generator like if I look at generators just from my small window of observation,
Yeah.
um, it'd be like just the cheerful, like happy aura,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of like that. And then if I looked at a manifesting generator, it'd be like the same thing, but
A little
like
more
that.
amped up.
Yeah, a little like it's just yeah, because you have that motor to the throat, you can there's a there's a like a larger force to complete a task. Like a generator may like check back in with their authority and like how they feel about it. They may need to be asked a question, one or two questions.
Okay.
If they really enjoy what they're doing, because your theme is satisfaction. You want to be satisfied with your work. You want to be
Yep.
satisfied with your relationships, and such and such. And so, um, yeah. And then there's the projector, which is a focused or a yeah. Is I think I think projectors are the most. And this is me as a projector. I think the projectors are the most lost of all the types.
Mm.
As far as like who they are, like they're the most susceptible to conditioning. I'm like,
Okay.
um, and they don't have a sacral center, but then they could end up working like they do. And then projectors as well. There's a very intellectual side, and then when they think they know everything, they could end up really, really bitter when things don't work out the way they should.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, and then reflectors, and their projectors about 20%
And
of
what was manifesting generators? I don't think I got the percentage of those.
they're about like 35%, and
Okay.
then the other portion of the sacral beings are generators, so 20 something,
Okay.
30%. So yeah, 30, 35, and then um,
So as far as like how a projector moves through the world, um, what is their best way of working through the world? Because manifesting generator, we're out here, we got lots of energy, we're rah rah.
yeah,
It's kind of,
um,
kind of comes easy to, have relationships and experience life kind of at an elevated state, I would say. That's just been my own experience. I don't know if that's everybody. But as far as like a projector goes, like what's their objective, I guess? Because if the objective of the generator is to seek peace, the objective of the manifesting generator is to seek satisfaction. What is the objective of the projector?
yeah. So the manifestors piece, generators, and manifesting generators is satisfaction.
Yep.
Projectors is success,
Success.
and reflector is surprise.
Surprise.
And um, yeah, it's not to say that generators, don't have uh, the things they have to contend with too,
Sure.
and it goes into a lot of different things like environment, you know, their motivation or determination. Uh,
Right.
it goes into their definition, like split definition. Their profile plays like a factor, but that's for all the types.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this. That's why I was like, all
Yeah,
right, let's start at the beginning and see if we can kind of give an overall picture. So a projector is so they don't
success.
have the same like motor in their throat or the life force or the same thing.
Yeah, no, I mean you have some projectors that have motors. For example, you have the emotional center, the solar plexus center, which you have, which is your authority. It's a motor essentially, and um, basically the self projection aspect or the ability to speak comes from self projection or anything like a projected channel to the throat, and that's like a whole nother thing
Yeah.
because if unless you're yeah, unless you're ego projected, but
Yeah.
um, I our energy or whatnot um, is not that of a manifester, not that of a
Yeah.
generator. Um, and it depends on it. And if you have motors, you may have more energy as a projector. But essentially, the theme or what I'm trying to get, the point I'm trying to make is that for projectors, we drain ourselves of our energy when we are not recognized. And
Uh,
that's not to say you can't do things, but when we try to be involved with the other, but there's no recognition there, then we're draining ourselves of our energy.
I see.
Yeah. And then even if the recognition's there, it may not even be, the recognition we want. So we're just taking any old recognition that we
Yeah.
can have. For a projector, their signature is success, meaning um, that conversation, that that ability to help or guide, because they consider projectors guides.
Okay.
Um, that ability to do that well and effectively based on the channels, the profile, the definition that being has, that projector has, is what makes them feel successful.
Okay.
Um, and so, uh, for like a projector to be a master of a system,
Hmm.
let's say like master a system. It could be any system. It could be any type of system. It could be a multitude of systems, but there needs to be a somewhat of a mastery, or I wouldn't even say like what's a master, like maybe 10,000 hours, maybe not, but there has to be an understanding about something,
Okay.
um, you know, more so than because they can't just sit there and like build a house like a generator, manifesting generator. They can try.
Right. Right. But they're probably not going to be successful.
I mean, they could be successful, but how long until they like pass out? And
Right. Right. How before their energy is just completely depleted.
yeah,
All
and
right.
then
So what about what was the last one? The reflector?
yeah, and the reflectors, they're awesome. They're like 1 to 2% of the population.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and don't quote me on these percentages.
No, no, no,
They're
no,
pretty
no. It's
close.
just good to know like the who's walking around, who we walking around
Yeah,
with, right?
and they change over time because people die and stuff.
Right, right, right.
Um,
Oh, true, true, true. Very good point. So
and
what do reflectors do?
so reflectors, they have a completely open body graph when you're looking at a body graph chart,
Okay.
9 completely open centers with gates wherever they are. And they're here to sample their environment.
Okay.
So um, it's been said a reflector, if you get a reflector around you, that like you'll be able to see who you are. They'll be able to reflect that back to you.
Oh, okay.
And their aura is like, or their frequency or energy, whatever you want to call it, is like Teflon. It's like me, I know a reflector, and it's I don't know what I don't know yet. I haven't figured them out.
Okay.
Like, and that's the point though.
Yeah.
Like they're
Have you
or
met one yet? Do you know? Have you met one yet?
no, I know a reflector. Yeah,
Okay.
she's really cool. But and I remember when I first met her, I didn't. I think I sensed judgment, but I'm now that I know she is a reflector, is me judging myself.
It was
Um,
that mirror. Yeah.
yeah, and like especially as I get to know and talk to her, like it's just always something different that I'm feeling, but it's not. I know it's not from her. Like
Oh,
it's not
so
her projecting something to me.
yeah.
Um,
I kind of feel that way about everybody.
yeah,
They're all reflecting our stuff, right?
yeah. I yeah. I have no idea,
I know.
but
It's interesting. So this human design thing is based on our birth chart. Am I correct about that?
yeah. So it's based on your birth date, your time, your location. So yeah, your birth chart. I'm not like an astrology buff or anything, but um, yeah, the system. Like if you look at the system, it takes aspects of the I Ching, the Kabbalah, astrology, and the chakra system,
Okay.
and not in the traditional sense of those systems, but it's interesting because I think a lot of things are very connected. A lot of system, a lot of modalities, a
Yeah.
lot of theories about the world, sciences.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I always say it's like all the same information. We're just running it through a different filter,
Hmm.
saying it in different words, but it's basically the same information. I mean, you can even track universal law in the Bible. Like,
I believe it. Yeah.
yeah, if there's a book out by Florence Scovel Shinn called The Game of Life and How to Play It, and she
Mm.
will show you how the Bible connects to universal law. It's so cool because it's like it's all the information of who we really are. It's like our makeup and our design and how the world actually works, like the laws of the universe work. So
Mhm.
of course it's going to be regurgitated, but just in different ways. So it's like just a different way of saying things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how can knowing this information actually help people? Like, how is this a tool? And I can share my experience, but I'd love to hear from you. How can people use this as a tool to actually become more powerful in their life experience?
Yeah. Um, so we there's like a contention or a dissonance that we have when we go against what we want, like the thing we want to do, and like
Yeah.
what we think we should do.
Yes.
Um,
Which is why I think a lot of people are unhappy.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it right there. They're going against their design of what actually would bring them passion and joy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And and it's not to say you're not going to make mistakes, but there'll be like the mistakes you need, I think, if you do
Yeah,
make mistakes. And I wish I would have known about human design a lot earlier, but when I look at human design and I look at the world, like, so there's like the aspect of it where it's like in my immediate life, like how, and it's all personal. We're all so unique.
yeah,
Like it's an individual sport, but there are other people out there that you can play with, and we need to play with other people.
right.
And when I look at the world and what I see, I'm like, my mind is like, it's it's like a mix between once it's like can't understand how people can't understand stuff, and then it's like, but I understand you can't understand stuff, and it's like it's just, and I think human design will help a lot of people not be so
Yeah,
frustrated with themselves, frustrated with the world. It's
yeah,
not so much as let go as like don't even operate it from a space that's not you. And if you're
right.
called to do something, or if you're not called to do something, if you're called to
Yeah,
dive into your head and try to like figure it out, then that's what you do. If not, then like, why are you doing it?
I love that because I feel like people are just really overcomplicating this. And it's like if we can simplify, give them a roadmap for what works for them the best, then that's something they're going to use for the rest of their life as far as moving forward and how they navigate. Because if you're navigating life and it's really freaking hard and you're constantly in resistance and you're constantly irritated and frustrated, this is where disease comes from. This is where
Mhm.
cancer comes from. This is where why people are not thriving, why they're not healthy, because they're in constant resistance and powerlessness because they're living a life that is completely inauthentic to who their true spirit is, their true like design is, right?
Yeah, I think it's very practical. It's a very practical tool, and it's, to know your design, and like it doesn't cost anything. You will be a fool in the coming future to not at least give it a shot, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
You'll
Just
kick
to know just a few things. Like,
yeah.
so one thing that you shared with me is you said that I was low sound, and that that made so much sense to me because I have always had a really hard time with loud things, loud music.
Mhm,
Like if my husband's looking at reels, I can't sit there and like look at reels or TikTok. I
mhm,
get like my energy field just gets overstimulated, I think. So ever since knowing that and accepting that and being like, oh, I'm low sound, I feel less apologetic about it. My family accepts it more. So my husband accepts it and he's like, oh, yeah, your mom's low sound. Like, it's just so
yeah.
that
So,
one little thing has radically changed the resistance within me to be like, oh, I should be okay with that loud music. Like when we go out to dinner, if it's too loud, I have a really hard time having a good time. And I'm really good at tuning things out. But if it's like so in my energetic field, I literally will be like, I have to go. I can't stay here. I've left places because it's just too much. So just
mhm.
knowing that makes me go, oh, I'm low sound. Like that's accepting the truth of who I am, the design of who I am, and then that will make my navigation process a little easier.
Yeah, I love that aspect of human design. And then yeah, so if you're watching, you don't know, everyone has a what they call a determination, the way they take in information
Okay.
uh, best. And for you, for example, it's or the way they digest information or take in information or their environment. And for you, it's low sound. So yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like low sound. It's not silence either, but
No,
it's low
no.
sound. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I actually do really enjoy silence as well, but
Hmm.
I get that as far as like what makes my energy field thrive. That's the way I took it. Like
Yeah.
that's what makes me thrive is not, this crazy loudness. It's like just
Hmm.
bringing it down a few, you know.
Yeah, instead of fighting it and being like, why
Yeah.
am I like this or what's wrong with me? You
Yeah,
know?
or I shouldn't be like this. I think a lot
Yeah.
of people do that where they're like, I shouldn't be like this. I should change the way I am. And I think that is part of the really cool thing about human design is we all grow up with a programming about ourselves and these should and should nots. And
Hmm.
they don't necessarily, and for the most part, probably don't align with our truth. And that's like a mission that I'm on is helping, not helping, but assisting people to discover that truth so that they know how powerful they are and they know that they are here to create and not necessarily just to be obligated to do things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Huge. Huge.
the
That's
rules and dogmas, yeah, they're
so much of that. There's so much programming going on and there's so um if you never take the time. I'm taking an acting class and I had acting class last night and there was an exercise where people had to basically lose their shit. Like basically just like
hmm
flip out. And I watched several people and I realized how many people have not connected with their true emotional field. And
hmm
because I've done this work for so many years, it's not to say that I'm above it. It's just this stuff is trapped inside of us. And if we don't work on it and we don't start processing with it and figuring out that roadmap within, then we're not going to be living a really truthful experience or one that where we're going to be vital and healthy and really thriving and
right.
abundant. Like that's where abundance is at.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they were afraid to scream and stuff.
It was crazy. No, they actually took it to like, yes, they were afraid to scream at first, but then once they started unleashing, like one guy like punched something and he was like, I don't even remember punching that. And I was like, that's a little
Oh
scary.
shit, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
So I get like a download about it. And he was in the military. So maybe you can relate to this. He was actually a Marine.
Hey,
I'm I'm
don't
just
put me
saying.
in. Oh, Marine, yeah, maybe. Oh yeah.
One thing that I connected and I got a really strong download about was that if you have rage that's like blind rage, where you're
Mhm.
kind of losing consciousness of the scenery of what's going on and you're kind of doing things that are completely out of your control, it's because you have never looked at your emotional field because you've never dived deep into that field. And I believe human design connects to this because it's about how we navigate what's going on inside of us. And when we get a clearer picture of that, I think that we can do it differently and also in our relationships do it differently so that we're not in this I feel like it's like one of these like things that's going to explode, like melting pot, like like it's going to burst. And I think we're seeing that in our world that people need to be more connected to that inner self.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something about at least being aware, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, because yeah, depend on someone. If I'm looking at it from a human design lens, depend on someone's profile, like then you're making like a generalization, and it'd be like, oh, the 2-4, the second line is like a natural. It could, it doesn't really know what it's good at. It projects in on itself, but it's just a beauty to it. But they also like when like criticize can sometimes, lash out. Like it's just like just these different little characteristics of certain lines
Hmm.
or your profile that just an awareness of. You're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with me, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's connecting with that because I think too, when we look at the way that we're raised or go to school or whatever, we're put in these little boxes and these little labels and they're not necessarily optimal. So if you can take
Mhm.
human design and look at it and take an optimization from it, like this
Mhm.
is the way that you're designed. There's nothing wrong with you. That's your design. How do you make decisions around that design to make yourself proceed in the most optimal way?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, and if you know the people around you's designed too, like you can respect them in the way they operate.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because that's acceptance of other people where you're not, because I say this to my girls all the time. I'm like, you expect people to be how we are.
Hmm.
And people didn't grow up the way you grew up. They don't have parents like you have. They're not surrounded by love. They don't walk into their house and it's a sanctuary. So you can't put your stuff on other people and say, well, they should know better because we're all designed differently.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even them, they're probably different from each other.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, totally. So,
Yeah,
yeah. So we put these big expectations on people because you're like, well, that's what I would do. But it's
yeah.
like, if you're
For
designed
example,
differently, right?
yeah. For example, you're a 1-3, right? 1-3
Okay.
manifesting generator.
Yeah.
And the thing about the third line from my learnings is they need to break the bond at least once to know if something's right for
Okay.
them.
Okay.
So like if you're like you just break it like because the third line is bonds made and broken. It's the
Okay.
kind of like the thematic of it. So they're bumping into things, they're making things out happen, they're going out in the world and just like they're just meeting people. They're it's one of the most resilient lines though. It can bump into a lot of things. It can get beat up a little bit.
Okay.
Um, and it can make Rod said it had the best capability of making money. Like if you in your chart, any gates you see with a third line, there's that material aspect of or capability because it bumps into so many things and it is resilient. Um,
Okay.
but for them to like, and I could be completely wrong, but like, let's say, like, did you break up with your husband once before you married him?
I did. How did you know that? Did I
Did
tell
you?
you that?
No, you didn't tell me that.
I did. That's crazy.
But I could, yeah. So I couldn't like if I knew your design, I can't even be mad at you for acting the way you act.
Ah,
Like, why would I do that? You know?
right. Right. That's interesting. So that's like part of my human design why I broke up with him.
I'd have to look even further in your chart, but I'm just saying, generalizing the things I do know about your chart
Yeah.
or your profile, I should say.
Yeah.
Um, like because it's working so correctly, it wouldn't have worked correctly if you wouldn't have broken up with them.
Oh,
Because
that's
if the bonds need to be made and broken, and then you can re-enter into it because the third line needs to know that that's for them.
wow. That's freaking deep. I never even realized that. But I will say, so we broke up when I was 16 and I was moving to a new school and we broke up right before I moved to that new school. So when I entered that new school, now we had already been dating for like 2 or 3 years. When I moved to that new school, I was like a new person. Like I was able to have a new identity. And then when we came back together, he valued the relationship different, where when we were together before, it was kind of like me chasing him. Then
Mm.
it kind of elevated where we were in the relationship. So it was really, but just to know that that was part of the design is kind of cool. That's kind of cool to know that. And I think if people knew this when, there's divorces happening or, breakups or whatever, if people knew that this was part of the design and the overall what's going to lead them to more, I think that could get rid of a lot of regret for people. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing about human design. There's some people in your life will have certain channels or gates that compromise your design. And if you're aware of that, you can kind of navigate it.
Wow.
But it's just like, for example, like, and I'm like, no matter how smart I am, no matter how much information I know, no matter how logical, you know, I'm being for some people, I'm not going to win that argument
Right. Right.
because they have something in their design that'll just like either compromise or overpower. Like, so
Steamroll.
like, yeah,
Yep.
so
Yep.
so yeah, I definitely.
I got to plug in. My thing is like low, but keep talking. All right, wait. I have a question about that. What was it? Um, so I just had an idea, like a dating app for human design. Did I
Yeah,
just give out my $1 million idea?
no, many people have thought of it. I thought of it. I was actually in a class the other day. I was like,
That's a good idea.
app for human design. There's an app. It's like I think it was like put online in like 2007. I don't even know how that's possible.
Yeah.
But like with regarding that, um, I okay because I watched the one and I read the book too. Uh,
Okay.
and I was thinking like, oh, human design, a dating app, that would be like the exact design. But there is an aspect of like fractals. I think it could be a good start, but when you're looking at human design, someone can have a complementary design, but they're not on the same fractal or line of geometry.
Right.
And then there's so much to consider, which would be beautiful. I mean, the odds of them being on the same kind of like fractal or on the same wave, you might say, is higher if they're into the same things you're into. Um, but there's also things like it would just be a very complicated app because there's your
It would have
incarnation
to be.
cross, your environment, your nodes, your variables, like
Yeah.
the color, how it like your motivation, what gets you in transference, which it would just be very, very complicated. But
Right.
I
Right.
think it's possible.
You never know. I mean, when you think about dating apps now, it's like what are people making, decisions based on? Looks, interests. You go to this deeper level of stuff and get into design, then maybe you have the potential to make more soulful connections. I don't know, just an
No,
idea,
I agree. I mean, it's basically you would need a big database
right?
designs of
Yeah.
basically everyone's design DNA
Yeah.
and like
Maybe it starts out as that, like starts out as a human design app and then branches over into making connections with people. Because even like in business, to be able to make connections with people and co-create with people that your designs complement is a really cool idea.
yeah, I mean they have the Penta, the WA, the OC16. These are all like different aspects of family and business. When you get into a
Yeah.
group of three to five, you have a Penta. Uh, Above that, you can go on and you would need, there's just certain keys and stuff in place that you would need for it to operate smoothly, whether it be like reliability, culture, commitment. There's just all these different aspects to make a functioning family or business group, which
Right.
is what people do. People do, I guess, yeah. So people do that
Yeah.
for businesses already. People plan their businesses
Right.
around people's designs, and
Absolutely.
I'm definitely like, yeah, I encourage anyone to run a chart in regards to a relationship. So, yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So I want to go back to the inner guidance piece because I'm super into inner guidance. I think we live in a world where there's so many coaches and so many consultants and so many ways that you can get information. Like there's so many ways to get information now, like
Mhm.
more than there's ever been before, right? Like it used to be call your mom, ask your mom what she thinks. Now it's like you could ask thousands of people online what they think, and
Yeah.
people do.
Everyone
So
has a tip and a trick and a tool and a technique. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Which I feel like we're moving out of that. I can see us starting to move away from that, where we're starting to, evolve as a species and get into meditation and clearing the mind and actually start to connect with our own inner guidance. So you said so how do you connect with knowing? Let's go over the four different things and what they're is it all the same for each design as far as where their inner guidance comes from, or is it different depending on where your birthday is?
Oh, so all like your authority,
Yeah,
they're all different.
they're all
Like you could be a manifester or a generator
and
or
have a different
projector
authority.
and have
Okay.
different or the same authority.
Okay.
So in like the hierarchy, it'd be emotional authority, then the sacral authority, then splenic, then ego, self-projected, and then lunar. So for each person, it could be different. The way in which you uh, make the decision, though, is based on your type.
It is. So let's talk
Yeah,
about that. That's what I want to talk about. So, how does a manifestor make decisions?
uh, they just initiate.
They
They,
know.
yeah,
Okay.
they initiate. Like, yeah, let's say you want to make your decision based on like your definition. So like the channels you have, it just wants to be. It wants to feel. It needs to feel like you feel at peace with it. I think for a manifester, yeah, that makes sense.
Makes
Um,
a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah, the signature is
So
peace.
they make decisions based on what's going to lead them to peace.
Yeah, or like it depends on the channel. Like you could have a money channel. You could decide you make a decision in the sales. The thing that you decide to sell, yeah, you'd want it to give you the most amount of peace possible.
I love
Um,
that. Okay. So what about manifesting generator?
so it's to respond,
Okay.
and some say it's to respond and initiate because they're manifesting generators.
Right.
So you initially respond to your external environment. So whether that be uh, signposts or um, you know someone asking you or initiating you into something, um, or whatever it is. You could just be riffing with a friend or just wanting to go to the store. So first you respond, and because you're a manifesting generator, you then can really just initiate and complete more so than just doing a task. And
Okay.
not to say generators just do tasks. That's not the case, but you're both looking for satisfaction. Generators and manifesting
Okay.
generators want to feel satisfied.
Okay.
Um, and then projectors, it's wait for the recognition, then the invitation. Um, some people argue that you don't necessarily need the invitation; the recognition is more important.
Yeah.
Um, uh, However, the more formal the invitation is, when you do get one, the better for the projector. You'll
Okay.
have more access to the energy you do have to make a masterpiece, whatever that is. or to
Got
do
it.
as well.
Okay.
For the reflector, it's a full lunar cycle.
Okay.
So, um, yeah, full
What does that mean?
a whole month.
Oh,
Yeah, that's before they make any rash decisions. Because and the reason why that is because the reflectors, they don't have any defined centers. So all their centers are open,
okay.
but every month the moon enters each gate,
Okay.
like, or each gate is activated in a sense.
Okay.
So like, so for them to really get clarity, um, yeah, they just like, oh yeah, by the end of the month, like big decisions. Like, am I going to move? Like, yeah, am I going to go on this vacation? Yeah, am I going to date
It
this
would
person?
be based on the moon cycle.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, it's lunar authority. That's their
So,
authority.
and like, if you don't know about human design, maybe you don't even know that that's what you're doing. That's interesting.
Yeah, some people inherently. So like your emotional authority, there's
Shocker.
a need to wait for your wave to pass or
Yeah.
processing through your emotional wave, whatever that looks like for you.
Yep. And
Um,
I always thought that that was just part of my study. I always thought like just knowing how you feel about something is how you get answers. So I didn't realize that it was just based to a type. I always just thought that was kind of the right way to do it. So it's kind of interesting.
well, that's good.
Look at
I
that
mean,
because it's like that knowledge came to me without even knowing my human design. But I always thought it was like, well, isn't that how everybody makes decisions?
well,
But it's
just imagine the people that subscribe to the 5 second rule and make decisions fast and
yeah,
like do things like like given that's not making decisions, wake up and like get out of bed. But
yeah,
maybe I don't want to get out of bed. All
right.
right, Robbins. Maybe I want to stay in bed and lollygag. All right, I'm just playing. But
It's like we're trying to inspire and motivate people the wrong way. At least some
yeah,
of them, right?
but there's people on her fractal. There's people that's meant
Oh,
for.
sure,
Yeah,
sure, sure.
but me no.
Yeah, no, she's she's hit me. She's hit me once or twice
Yeah, she scares me.
in a good way, does she? She's very serious,
Yeah,
very serious. I don't think I could be that serious.
yeah.
Um,
I like you the way you are.
Thank you. I like to be lighthearted, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So give us one more really strong tip. We got about 2 minutes left. What do you got? Putting you on the spot. Would you say everybody should do this?
Um,
Did everybody get their design done? Like, why not? Like,
I think you'll be doing yourself a disservice in
yeah,
the future if you don't,
yeah,
because there is an integration period with some of the information,
yeah.
and especially for projectors.
Well, that's where I'm at. I'm still integrating this. This is still very like kind of out there to me where I haven't like the grid hasn't filled in yet. That's the way I like to look at things. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show too, to kind of help me to start to understand this so that I can integrate it better. So if you're kind of like, what is this all about? I would say hang on, because if you watch this show, you've now been introduced and now the law of attraction is going to bring more of this to you and your interest has now been piqued. So you're welcome, right?
Yeah, you guys are. Yeah, yeah. I,
Oh man, this was
I've
so good.
been in general.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I I think that as the world changes and like for the sake of yourself, for the sake of your family and the people you care about,
yeah,
knowing how you opt, just playing around with it, just play
yeah.
around with it because you don't want to be confused and frustrated
No,
if you can avoid it. So
I totally agree. We want to thrive. And that brings me to this really cool little thing I'm going to put up below. So Aaron and I are actually, I'm going to try to put it up anyways. I thought that was going to work. Oh, there it goes.
there you go.
Oh, Here's the website, you guys, hdstation27.com. Aaron and I are actually partnering up with a few other people, and we are putting on a life-transforming event in Laguna Beach, California. What's the date, Aaron?
January 27th.
January 27th at a super cool location. And so crazy. The other night we were together and I literally parked right in front of the location. So I got to go in, see where we're going to be presenting. It's going to be universal law. There's going to be human design, numerology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some channeling, some really interesting spiritual guidance that we're going to be getting from a really amazing person. So this is a life transforming event. I'm going to be sharing about that for the next couple of weeks, but that's the website you can go to. You want to sign up for this because we only have 40 spots?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The capacity is about 40, 45. So,
and you want to watch this baby get born because I'm really excited about it. I'm having trouble sleeping already, and it's 6 weeks away. So January 27th, come out to California. Laguna Beach, California is one of the most beautiful places you could ever be. Spending time with us is the most expansive thing that you could do. So we are really excited to guide and lead and inspire and aspire and connect with these energies that are here for us to create the most incredible experience in life there is. Would you agree?
yeah, totally. I think practical tools for awareness are invaluable.
I am totally in agreement. So that is it for our show today. I'm going to probably have Aaron come back on another time to get even deeper into this stuff because it seems like we could probably talk about it for days. But if you really want to know about it, come to our event, and that will be probably the best way to really integrate this stuff and start to assimilate what your design is and how to put all these pieces together, put this little scientific experiment together so that so it works for you. Thanks, Aaron. So
Thank
happy.
you. Thank you for having me. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We love you all. Peace. Here we go.